No, I'm pleased with it. I was gone, definitely.
How satisfying was it to see the former Brocklesby winner Mix Your Man win recently in listed company?
Oh, it was a dream come true because, I mean, we thought he was a very special horse as a 2-year-old when he won his first two. He was doing quicker times than the 3-year-olds on both occasions, and, he looked a bit special, and I turned a bit of money down for him as a 2-year-old, and then he just went the wrong way a little bit, and we gelded him, and it was fantastic. And for my grandson to beat Ryan Moore in the finish at Ascot was a dream come true,
I was going to say, because having Ryan on board and this association now that he's riding, it must make it extra special when you get these big winners.
Yeah, my missus keeps telling me I've got to retire, but I've got to try and get him going as long as I can, and that's our main aim at the moment.
And how impressed are you? I know that you've obviously got the biased family line as well, but how impressed are you by him as a jockey?
Well, I mean, the weight thing is brilliant what he's doing, I mean, he's doing sort of 8-1, and he's as tall as Richard Hughes, probably a little bit taller. He will have to go jumping, and I kept the horse for him to go. He won on him, Ed Lowman, first time out, and I said to him the other day, I said, this horse has got a hell of a chance. You ought to ride him, and what if I break my collarbone? I got some nice rides coming up on the flat and that, so he didn't ride him, and the horse won, so he was a bit sick then.
You'd trust Grandad, shouldn't he? Steering job.
Yeah.
Mix Your Man's taken out of the Carnarvon on Friday. What is the plan with Mix Your Man?
Well, he's back on track to get him sold, and if he passes the vet, he's sold, so to go abroad. So
Hong Kong.
Yeah, we've been offered enough money, so I can't turn it down twice,
Did you always think Mix Your Man would take the transition from 2 to 3 despite winning the Brocklesby?
We did in our early days. I mean, he was such a big, strong, good-looking horse, and he didn't look like an early 2-year-old in early days. But like I said before, he was playing up a little bit, so we had to get some work stuck into him, and he took us there. We didn't take him; he took us there early on, and he always looked like he was going to be a better horse for 3- and 4-year-old.
And how many 2-year-olds have we not seen from the yard? Have you got many more bullets to fire?
No, I've only got a couple, 2 or 3 left that haven't run, that were a bit backward, or one's had sore shins, and we think he's okay. Horse by Jeremy. We had him. I fired his shins because we couldn't settle him down, and he's back cantering now, so we think he's okay.
That's not uncommon though for 2-year-olds, is it?
No, none of them get it. And some get over it quick, and like I say, this horse just wouldn't shift him, so we fired him, and that seems to have done the trick,
Best of luck here with Absent Friends, Bill, and thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Bill.
Thank you.
Richard Hughes is back on board Magical Roundabout, who you saw galloping into the pre-parade ring, where he was stopped very bravely. Magical Roundabout now on his way to the post with the other 4. Captain Colby is 6-4, 7-2 wins Stanley. Absent Friends 9-2, 5-1 Mignolino, and Magical Roundabout, not surprised, he drifted a little out to 7-1.
Yeah, not surprisingly as well, Jonathan. I drifted undercover and hid behind a post when I saw Magical Roundabout charging through the paddock. I'm pleased to say that we avoided any serious incident here, because there are about 100 people in the paddock, and he somehow managed to avoid all of them.
The thing with you is that if you disappear behind a post, you do disappear, don't you? You just go behind the post. He's gone. There he is, 1 minute behind a lamppost.
What are you trying to say?
I'm the human lamppost.
Magical Roundabout, he showed quirks at Ascot in the race as well, tacking over to the far side behind Absent Friends, and Ryan, as Bill said, can claim now.
He did. He's a bit buzzy, and in the old days, Zebedee used to bounce down in the Magic Roundabout and say time for bed, and I think Magical Roundabout himself was ready to go back home and have a nice, not a lie down, but a little rest, even though he hasn't done anything yet. So he's got into the start. Well done for Richard Hughes for jumping back on and getting him down there.
Captain Colby, how impressed were you by his debut win?
I was quite impressed, but the thing I was impressed with was that he had to do a bit to win. He cruised up, looked like he was going to win easily, and then it actually was a rival got to him, and he had to fight a little bit and fended that rival off and won fairly comfortably in the end. But he showed a little bit of fight, which is something I always like to see in a horse.
I was interested to see the rematch between Mambo Paradise and Winstanley, because Mambo Paradise finished in front of Winstanley on debut, giving Mackley a first win. Mambo Paradise is out. The reason I was interested by the matchup was because Winstanley was better off at the weights today, and you can make, not necessarily excuses, but you can see that there were obvious areas in which Winstanley would and could improve.
Yeah, £7 was going to be helpful if he met his old rival, but he doesn't. And the winner, they got probably a better run against the rail than Winstanley, who was pushed out into the middle of the race course. And he just looked a bit green, didn't he? A bit as though the experience was going to help him. I think Captain Colby is the most likely winner, and I think that Winstanley is the most likely runner-up, given that Magical Roundabout's messed about. Absent Friends has to give everything bar Magical Roundabout weight. The only one we haven't mentioned is Mignolino, who
Graham Gibbons was pretty positive about Mignolino.
looked fine and ran in a race at Newcastle that was, in comparison with the other races that day, run pretty slowly. The runner-ups let the form down since a filly. I think a lot of improvements needed, but horses do step forward a good deal from one run to the next. How do you think? David Barron, if he didn't think a little bit of Mignolino, he would have gone somewhere from Newcastle. He'd have gone to Thirsk or Redcar, wouldn't he? He wouldn't have come to York knowing that he'd run into a few.
No.
So you have to have a certain amount of respect for his chances. Not that I think 5-1 is a brilliant price.
Captain Colby, the 6-4 favourite. Loading process well underway, and Kevin Ryan and Tommy is looking for a winner here on this Gelder's Son of Bernstein. As I mentioned, his progeny do seem to like cutting the ground.
Indeed. I think it's by no means desperate ground, is it? But it'll still be a relative test of stamina for youngsters.
Thanks, Eddie. Once again, we hand you back to the commentary box here on a sun-drenched Knavesmire and rejoin Stuart Machin.
Sun-drenched Knavesmire. Who'd have thought we'd have been saying that when the rain was coming down in stair rods last weekend, and indeed earlier on this week. Captain Colby, the last one to go in, the British Stallion Studs EBF Novice Stakes, all in. They're off, racing over the straight 5 furlongs. Favourite Captain Colby had to be bustled up from the rear on the left in a sheepskin noseband, but takes up a prominent position alongside Absent Friends, and they in turn are tracked by Winstanley. Mignolino in the pink sleeves is right on terms, and Magical Roundabout takes the trail, just bustled through the first couple of furlongs by Richard Hughes. So Captain Colby helping to force things along here with Mignolino and Absent Friends up between them. Hughes crouching low on Magical Roundabout, and more niggling away on Winstanley as they move beyond halfway and head down inside the last two. Captain Colby and Mignolino now moving on together. Magical Roundabout switch to the near side, endeavouring to stake a claim. Then Absent Friends and Winstanley, and it's Mignolino who's quickened up outside the furlong, stretches on by a couple of lengths, chased by Absent Friends. Captain Colby at the one pace, Mignolino edging off a true line. The experienced Absent Friends throwing down a challenge near the finish, but Mignolino clearly learnt plenty from his debut and wins well. Mignolino from Absent Friends. Winstanley never nearer than at the finish in third, and Captain Colby was only fourth.
Mignolino has taken a real step up from that debut effort when finished 5th, beaten the best part of 3 lengths behind Cash on debut at Newcastle, but has clearly come on a bundle for that, and David Barron was fully justified in sticking him in here at York in a competitive, albeit small field, 5 furlong sprint race for the 2-year-olds, and Mignolino has won pretty convincingly in the end. I know he just wandered around and displayed signs of greenness late on, but he had the race sewn up long before that.
As so often with his 2-year-olds, one run really makes men of them all. He's so much more professional today. He really knew his job. He probably suited by the flatter track as well, and Absent Friends plugged away and couldn't get back to him, and Winstanley, who finished third, really looks set for a step up in trip now. He suggested,
Stayed on all right, didn't he?
Suggested that at Musselburgh. And Captain Colby could never really get his own way out in front. He had to be ridden to establish a lead. Perhaps the rails draw wasn't a great help for him in that respect, but he did get to the front early with Absent Friends White Cap pressing him. The winner travelling up on the outside, on the right-hand side with the breast girth, and always just seemed to be going that bit better than his rivals.
You just see him on the outside here of Absent Friends. Already the more drive is being seen by us here on Race UK, and Winstanley right at the back being driven along. He eventually doesn't get beaten that far.
Yes, there's an old pundit called Winstanley, isn't he? And this horse rather ran like him, a little bit reluctant early, not reluctant, but a little bit sluggish, and certainly not a sprinter, or as much of a sprinter as the other horses in the race. But gradually gets a little bit more out of him.